At the beginning of the story, an American football match is in full swing. In the VIP stands, a man named Nicky is seated comfortably with his girlfriend, Jess. While the game unfolds on the field, Nicky's attention is not on the match, but rather on the crowd. His eyes catch a beautiful woman rising from her seat, and instantly, a mischievous idea sparks in his mind. He leans over to Jess and proposes a small bet. Let's see how many people turn to look at that girl. A man sitting nearby, named Luyen, overhears them and says he wants in on the bet. Nicky agrees without hesitation. They all place a friendly $10 wager, and the counting begins. As the woman walks out of the stands, the final count of heads turning to look at her comes to 7. Jess had made the closest guess, and thus wins the bet. Luyen, keeping his word, pays up immediately and suggests another round of betting. This time, the bet revolves around who will make the next foul in the game. Jess decides to sit this one out, saying she doesn't know much about football. But Nicky, with a spark of confidence, jumps right in and places a $1,000 bet. As soon as the game resumes and the whistle blows, the referee signals a foul, exactly by the team Nicky had bet on. Nicky wins the bet and pockets the money. Luyen, instead of being upset, becomes even more enthusiastic. He says, let's make it $5,000 this time. The question now is, will the next play be a pass or a run? Nicky hesitates for a moment. It's a much bigger stake, but eventually agrees. Luyen bets it will be a run, and Nicky goes with pass. As the play begins, the player takes off running with the ball. Luyen wins this time, and Nicky loses $5,000. Realizing things are slipping, Nicky tries to step away and invites Jess to get coffee. But Luyen is insistent. Come on, he says, you're sitting in the VIP lounge. You clearly have money. What's $5,000? Let's go one more, for $10,000. Nicky, though reluctant, agrees. The bet this time. Will the player successfully complete the next pass? Nicky bets yes. But just as the pass is thrown, the opposing team intercepts it. Nicky loses again. Now his losses total $15,000. Pulling the money out of his wallet, Nicky looks visibly troubled. Despite this, he says, let's do one for $500. Jess is shocked. She urges him to stop, but Nicky looks angry, frustrated, and too far gone. His luck is clearly not with him. He loses this $500 bet too. Jess pleads with him to quit, but Nicky, driven by rage and ego, places yet another bet. This time, an enormous $100,000. Luyen laughs mockingly. Do you even have that kind of money? He asks. Nicky says nothing. Instead, he slams a thick bundle of cash on the table. Luyen's eyes light up. Nicky bets that the next pass will be intercepted. It won't be completed. But to his dismay, the pass is successful. Nicky has now lost over $100,000. His mind is spinning. He's trapped himself in a hole with no clear way out. Jess looks at him, stunned and heartbroken by his reckless behavior. But Nicky doesn't stop there. He says he still has $1 million left. Let's go all in, he declares. Let's see who wins now. The new bet, a simple card draw. Whoever draws the higher card wins. Luyen, now riding high on his winning streak, feels invincible. He draws his card. It's a 5. All Nicky needs is to pull a card higher than that. He reaches for a card, flips it over with confidence. It's a 3. Jess collapses into her chair. Nicky, who initially only intended to bet $4,000, has now lost over $1 million, nearly 9 crore rupees. Humiliated and speechless, he silently grabs Jess's hand and begins walking out of the VIP section. His heart is pounding with the weight of defeat. Behind him, Luyen mocks him, laughing. This is what happens when you play with a master's son. Nicky stops in his tracks. He turns back and makes one final bet for $1 million. But this time, the nature of the bet is different. Nicky challenges Luyen to pick any random player on the field using binoculars. If Nicky can guess that player's jersey number correctly, he wins. Luyen is taken aback. He senses something strange. This doesn't feel right. It almost seems like Nicky is walking straight into a trap of his own making. He even suspects Nicky might be cheating. To dispel his doubts, Nicky offers a twist. Fine. I won't guess. Jess will. Jess is startled. She stares at Nicky in disbelief and confusion. Out of all the players on the field, how is she supposed to guess the right number? She starts to walk away, but one of Luyen's security guards blocks her path. A brief scuffle erupts. Jess composes herself, and Nicky gently tells her, just look around the field. Say the number that feels right to you. Luyen uses his binoculars and selects a player. Jess takes the binoculars and surveys the field. Numbers flash across her vision, jersey numbers on every player. How could she possibly guess the correct one? Then her eyes land on a familiar face, Farhad, a friend of theirs, wearing jersey number 55. Suddenly, Jess remembers Nicky's words, pick the number that feels like your own. Understanding dawns. It was all part of Nicky's plan. She says, 55. And it's correct. Luyen is stunned. Jess herself stands frozen for a second, trying to wrap her head around what just happened. How had Nicky known Luyen would pick that number? There wasn't time to ask. They had just won the bet. With a $1 million profit in hand, they had recovered all the money they had lost. Carrying 2 large bags filled with cash, they exited the stadium. In the car, Nikki explained everything to Jess. It had all been orchestrated from the beginning. They had been tracking Lian for a long time. Lian was notorious in elite gambling circles for his impulsive betting habits. He would fall for any wager without thinking. Nikki's team had planted the number 55 into Lian's subconscious mind. The security guard's lapel pin said 55. Billboards and signs along the route to the stadium displayed the number prominently. It wasn't just visual. They made him hear the number, too. In Lian's car, a song was played repeatedly before the game, and it said 55 exactly 124 times. This constant exposure to the number influenced Lian's brain. When he looked through the binoculars, his mind was naturally drawn to player number 55. And since Farhad was that player, Jess, upon spotting him, said 55. Jess hadn't been informed of this part of the plan beforehand, so that her reactions during the entire con would remain authentic and convincing. That way, no one could suspect them. Hearing all this, Jess was speechless. She looked at Nikki with awe and admiration. The story now shifts back in time to a few days earlier. Nikki is lying on a bed in a room, and a man is pointing a gun at his head. Jess is nearby, having only met Nikki recently. It's clear someone has trapped Nikki, but he shows no fear. Calmly, he says, "I don't have a single penny. If you want to shoot, go ahead." The man with the gun watches Nikki closely. It becomes clear to him, this man is no ordinary guy. He's a bigger con artist than they are. And he's right. Nikki is a skilled grifter, someone who performs small but clean thefts. Jess had lured him to this room under a setup, but Nikki saw something in her, a raw, natural talent. At this point, Jess didn't understand much. She was just beginning to scratch the surface. After the gunman left, Nikki turned to Jess and said, "You have a gift. If you nurture it, you can live comfortably for the rest of your life." He explained, "It runs in the family. My father, and his father before him, all were cons. It's a generational art." For Nikki, every trick, every move was like a game. Jess, without missing a beat, took out some money and said, "I want to learn from you." Nikki didn't waste time either. Even as they were talking, he lifted Jess's ring without her noticing. By the time Jess realized the ring was gone, her watch was also missing. She put the watch back in her bag, only to discover her wallet was gone too. After pulling off this quick series of tricks, Nikki smiled and said, "Sleight of hand, timing, and a bit of style. That's all you need in this business." That day, Nikki said goodbye and vanished. Months later, Jess tracked him down in New Orleans. Nikki was building a new team for bigger operations. But this meeting with Jess wasn't just a reunion. It was a test to see if she had what it took to join the crew. Once she passed, Nikki sent her on her first assignment with another team member at a fair. Jess held a map and asked people for directions, creating distractions. Meanwhile, her partner stole a camera lens from a tourist. Another team member bumped into a man, and Jess used the moment to steal his wallet. She started getting comfortable with her skills. In one bold move, she used a pair of chopsticks to lift a wallet from a woman's handbag. It was so smooth and effortless that no one noticed. Nikki observed everything from a rooftop. He told his team to step back. It was time for Jess to fly solo. Jess began pulling off one theft after another. Her confidence grew, and so did Nikki's admiration for her. Soon, Nikki gave her a bigger job, a high-tech scam involving special lenses that let the team see other players' cards. They won consistently and made a fortune. They also ran a scam involving credit cards. Once stolen, cards were passed to a teammate with a skimming device. After copying the data, the cards were returned to the victim unnoticed. By the time the victim realized, their accounts were empty. Another setup involved a fake ATM machine that recorded users' PINs. Farhad would quietly remove the device and collect the information. All stolen cards were sorted into categories and used to purchase luxury goods. Later, the card data was sold on the black market. One day, Jess wore a beautiful necklace she liked, but Nikki told her to take it off. He explained firmly, "Nothing is personal. Everything we take has to be sold." Jess, standing amidst piles of stolen items, felt a wave of disbelief. She had never imagined conning at this scale. It was surreal. The next day, Jess and Farhad were walking through an upscale, wealthy neighborhood. Their task wasn't simple theft, it was a performance. A setup. As part of the plan, Farhad suddenly collapsed onto the sidewalk, pretending to faint. Jess immediately began screaming in a panic, drawing attention. "Please, someone help. Please, call an ambulance." Her cries echoed through the street, gathering a small crowd. It was a perfectly executed distraction. While concerned bystanders focused on the chaos, the rest of Nikki's team quietly moved through the crowd, picking pockets, snatching handbags, and lifting valuables from unsuspecting rich onlookers. Within minutes, they disappeared, hidden inside an actual ambulance waiting at the corner, their perfect getaway vehicle. The operation was so smooth, so seamless, that no one even suspected they'd just been robbed. That night, the entire crew celebrated their flawless success. Drinks poured, laughter echoed, and smiles were everywhere. Nikki stood before them and praised everyone for their incredible teamwork. In just 1 week, they had pulled in a whopping $1.2 million. It was a triumphant moment. But this was also the end of the road, for now. The following day, the team would go their separate ways. All documents were destroyed, phones and devices wiped clean, and each team member was assured that their share of the loot would be securely transferred into their respective bank accounts in the coming days. But the older members of Nikki's team knew something that Jess didn't. Nikki wasn't done yet. He had one last job to pull off. Before parting, they handed Nikki the entire $1.2 million in cash. Looking straight at Jess, one of the teammates gave her a warning, half joking but half serious. Don't go gambling this all away. The next morning, Nikki brought Jess to the VIP lounge of a grand stadium. This wasn't a date or a casual outing. It was a show. Nikki wanted her to see how easily millions could be earned in just a few minutes with the right con and the right setup. Throughout the day, Nikki dazzled her with his skills, his strategy, and his charm. Jess watched in amazement, feeling her heart slowly slipping. She was starting to fall in love with him. She thought this meant something, that she was special to him. After all, why else would he be sharing all this with her? But the harsh truth was, from the very beginning, Nikki had brought her into the crew only because she was part of the con. Nothing more. When the stadium job wrapped up and everything was over, Nikki casually handed Jess a mere $80 in cash and, without any emotion, said, "Goodbye." Jess looked at him, eyes brimming with tears. Her heart shattered in that moment. She had genuinely fallen in love with Nikki. She believed she was his partner. But $80, that was it? After watching him make over $1 million right in front of her, this felt like betrayal. A slap in the face. Yet Nikki didn't flinch. In his world, emotions were a liability. And now, Jess had seen his true face. Cold, calculated, and heartless. Almost 3 years passed. We see a race car pulling into a service station. Nikki steps out. He looks older, more tired. His eyes reveal weariness. His movements hint at desperation. It's clear, his money is running out, and fast. Over lunch that day, Nikki meets with a man named Garriga, the wealthy owner of a prestigious racing team. Garriga's research team has developed a cutting-edge algorithm called EXR, designed to optimize race strategy and performance. But Garriga wants to go even further. He wants to enhance the software, gain an unfair advantage, and win every race. That's where Nikki comes in. The job is simple. Nikki will pretend to be Garriga's chief engineer. Together, they'll stage a public argument, a convincing fallout. Rival racing teams, always looking for insider information, will witness the drama and assume Nikki has turned on Garriga. Nikki will then offer to sell a version of the EXR software to the rivals, a fake version. While the rival teams waste time using faulty data, Garriga's team will run the real software and win. For pulling off this elaborate deception, Nikki is promised €1 million. On top of that, whatever money he earns from selling the fake EXR systems will also be his to keep. To Nikki, the con sounds laughably easy. He could pull something like this off in his sleep. But not everyone is convinced. Garriga's personal butler, a cold and intense man, stares Nikki down and warns him bluntly. "If you mess anything up, I'll shoot you straight in the chest." That evening, Nikki puts on a tuxedo and attends a glamorous party filled with racing elite. The staged argument is supposed to take place here, a dramatic confrontation in front of everyone. But the entire plan crumbles the second Jess walks into the room. Dressed in a striking red gown, she descends the staircase like a movie star and walks straight into Garriga's arms. Nikki is stunned. For 3 years, he hadn't seen her, and now, she was with someone else. Not just anyone, but the very man who had hired him. Jess walks over calmly. She tells Nikki, "I'm not a con anymore. And whatever happened 3 years ago, it doesn't matter now." She also reveals that Garriga knows nothing about their past, and it would be best if things stayed that way. Nikki is furious. His blood boils. He grabs a glass of vodka and downs it in one gulp. The anger he was supposed to fake for the staged fight is now real. He storms into the middle of the room and causes a massive scene, yelling, throwing insults, playing the part, and living it. The performance works. Rival racing teams, always on the lookout for juicy gossip and potential advantage, eat it up. Nikki is thrown out by security. But as he walks away, he smiles. In his pocket is the business card of one of the rival team owners. The next morning, Nikki meets with the head of the McLaren racing team. He doesn't waste time. "It'll cost you €3 million. I want to sell you the EXR system." Money isn't a problem for the McLaren owner. They test the software on the track. The performance is extraordinary. Delighted with the results, he agrees to the deal. Nikki promises delivery within 48 hours. Meanwhile, on the street, Jess runs into Farhad, one of Nikki's old team members. Farhad has a message from Nikki. He tells her that 3 years ago, Nikki didn't walk away out of cruelty. He had no other choice. He also says that Nikki still loves her. He hands Jess a small box. Inside it is the same necklace she had once admired all those years ago. There's no way to tell if it's real or fake, but it doesn't matter. The gesture melts her heart. She says she can't trust Nikki anymore, but her eyes betray her. She still has feelings for him. The day of the big deal arrives. Nikki meets with the McLaren team owner and hands over the software. In return, a large, intimidating man gives Nikki a suitcase filled with €3 million in cash. But Nikki, true to his nature, isn't satisfied with just one deal. He secretly sells copies of the same EXR software to multiple racing teams, each time collecting millions. By the time the race begins, no one realizes they're all using the exact same system. Everyone thinks they have the edge. That night, instead of fleeing, Nikki sends a message to Jess. If she arrives in time, they can escape together. He waits. No one comes. Just as he's about to leave, Jess shows up. But their reunion is short-lived. Suddenly, the same large man who gave Nikki the €3 million shows up again, and this time, he isn't smiling. Turns out, he works for Garriga. They had found out that Nikki didn't sell a fake EXR system. He sold the real one. And now Garriga's massive investment was at risk. The man, wearing his racing gear, slams his car into Nikki's. The crash is brutal. Both Nikki and Jess are dragged away, tied up, and brought to an abandoned warehouse. Piles of cash are laid out in front of Garriga. Furious and betrayed, Garriga demands answers. How did you get the real EXR system? You were never given access. Nikki remains silent. Garriga grabs Jess and pinches her nose shut, cutting off her air. Nikki breaks. He can't watch her suffer. Through tears, he confesses everything. He had reignited Jess's feelings for him, given her the necklace, and inside that necklace was a chip. When Garriga opened the real EXR software, the chip inside the necklace copied the data and stole the password. It was a flawless con. Jess is heartbroken. She realizes she'd been used again, and now truly betrayed. But Garriga doesn't believe the story. He and his men start laughing. It's too clever, too convenient. Then Garriga reveals something shocking. Jess was never really his girlfriend. He always knew she was after his luxury watch collection. Jess doesn't deny it. She admits she only pretended to love him to steal from him, and maybe to get back at Nikki. Nikki is stunned. All this time, Jess had been playing her own game. Now both Nikki and Jess are at the mercy of Garriga. He turns to his butler, known ominously as the Butcher, and tells him to find out how Nikki stole the software. But before Nikki can say a word, the Butcher pulls the trigger and shoots him straight in the chest. Garriga turns pale. Panic sets in. Are you insane? We can earn back the money, but if I go to prison for murder, I'm finished. Terrified, he fires the Butcher and flees the warehouse with his men. Jess cries over Nikki's body. She's shattered, but the Butcher calmly tells her not to worry. Then he reveals the truth. He's not Garriga's man. He's Nikki's man. In fact, he's Nikki's real father. He didn't shoot to kill. The bullet hit Nikki in the side of his chest, avoiding all vital organs. He quickly patched the wound, used tape to seal it, drew out the excess blood, and stabilized Nikki's pressure. Moments later, Nikki opens his eyes. He's alive. The insane plan had worked. A mountain of cash waits for them, and the three escape together. It turns out, Nikki was an orphan, raised by this very man. It was he who taught Nikki every skill in the art of conning. The tricks, the rules, the cold-hearted discipline. And the first rule was, never get emotional. But this time, Nikki had broken his own rule. He had fallen in love, truly, deeply, with Jess. The old man dropped Nikki and Jess off by the roadside and drove away with all the money. Nikki was left with nothing. But on the way to the hospital, he noticed something. Jess was wearing Garriga's €200,000 watch. They looked at each other and smiled. With that level of charm, cunning, and sleight of hand, the two of them would never starve anywhere in the world. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.